𝙁𝙊𝙇𝙇𝙊𝙒 ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في كلامه المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإبراهيم الذي وفى رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وبارك وسلم. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, it is the season for Hajj, and we know many of our friends, relatives, community members who are going for Hajj, who have already left or will be leaving in the next few days. What is the purpose of Hajj? In a one-liner, the purpose of Hajj is so the millah of Ibrahim. We are the millah. We are the followers of the creed of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The millah of Ibrahim, Allah Azza wa Jal can familiarize the millah of Ibrahim to the personality of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Millat Ibrahim ko mizaj Ibrahim ka pata chale. Who is Ibrahim alayhi salam? That is why Allah Azza wa Jal calls us from all around the world to come and see what sacrifices Ibrahim alayhi salam made, what sacrifices his family made, what principles he stood for, what did he accomplish, what did he have to do. Hajj is all about Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam and Hajar alayhi salam. Hajj has very little or almost nothing to do with Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, it is important for us to know who Ibrahim alayhi salam is, who he was, what did he stand for. There are over 50 verses, or should I say 50 traits, sifats, attributes of Ibrahim alayhi salam, more than 50 lessons that we can learn from the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam in the Quran. That is why Allah states, قَدْ كَانَتْ لَكُمْ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ فِي إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Indeed, in the life of Ibrahim, there is the prime example for you. Now, we can't cover all the lessons that we can learn from the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam mentioned in the Quran, the 50 plus, but we will focus on 3 events, 3 incidents, 3 episodes from the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The first is when he preached to his father. He invited his father. And Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in great depth and detail, وَذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِنَّهُ كَانَ صِدِّيقًا نَبِيًّا. Make mention, remember Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was a truthful prophet. إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ, when he said to his father, Ya abati, O my father, lima ta'budu, why do you worship? Ma la yasma'u, something, an idol, a statue that cannot hear you. Wala yubsiru, nor can it see you. Wala yughni anka shay'a, nor can it benefit you. Every act of a human being revolves around one of 2 things only. Jalbul manfa'a or daf'ud darar. Anything you do is either to gain some benefit or to protect yourself from some harm. Whether you brush your teeth in the morning or you come for Friday prayer, for one of 2 reasons. Benefit in this life or the hereafter. Every single act of every single human being is one of these 2. To protect yourself from some harm or to gain some benefit. The worship of idols is such that it does not benefit you, nor can it protect you from harm. Why would you do that? Why would you waste your time in such a useless act? Ya abati, inni qad ja'ani min al-ilm. Because now the next question is, why should a father have to listen to a son? Usually the son listens to the father. The son is obedient to the father. The son follows the father. Here, the son, Ibrahim alayhi salam, is asking the father, follow me. So the question is, why should a father follow the son? Ibrahim alayhi salam answers, Ya abati, oh my father, inni qad ja'ani min al-ilm. Knowledge has come to me, ma lam ya'tika, which has not come to you. I have received revelation, I have received wahi from Allah Azza wa Jal, and you have not received that wahi. Fattabi'ni, so follow me, ahdika siratan sawiya, I will show you the straight path. The son will show the father the straight path, because the son has the knowledge and the father does not. Ya abati, la ta'bud ash-shaytan. Oh my father, do not worship shaitan. Do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. Innahu kana lirrahmani asiya. He become a rebel. He is a renegade against Allah, his Lord. Ya abati inni akhafu, I fear an yamassaka adhabun min ar-Rahman, that a punishment from Rahman will come to you. Fatakuna lish-shaytani waliya, and you will become a comrade, a companion of shaitan in the hellfire. On each of these, should I say, arguments, or each verse begins with Ya abati, oh my father, oh my dear father, oh my beloved father. And now comes the response of the father. What does the father have to say? The father says, Araghibun anta an alihati ya Ibrahim. Are you showing a disdain for my gods, O Ibrahim? Doesn't say Ya bunayya, oh my beloved son, O Ibrahim. Are you showing a dislike and a hatred for my gods? لَإِن لَمْ تَنْتَهِ, if you do not, in legal lingo, cease and desist. If you do not stop, if you do not cease and desist from nullifying my gods, from saying that my gods are false, لَأَرْجُمَنَّكَ, I will stone you to death. وَهْجُرْنِي مَلِيًّا, and I abandon you, I shun you, get out of my house. This is the da'wah, the preaching, the teaching of Ibrahim alayhi salam to his father, and the father's response. Ibrahim alayhi salam had to say goodbye to his father. Salamun alayk, salamun alayk, salam to you. Sa'astaghfiru laka rabbi, I will seek forgiveness from my Lord for you. Innahu kana bi hafiya, my Lord has been very gracious with me. Now comes the next phase, which is his confrontation with his people. Because we live not as hermits, we live in a society, in a community filled with neighbors and relatives. So Ibrahim alayhi salam for decades now has been preaching to his people, inviting them to Allah, but they do not want to give up idolatry. So now he decides that I am going to demonstrate for them how useless is their act of idolatry. Tallahi, I swear by Allah, la'akidanna asnamakum, I will hatch a plot against your idols. Ba'da an tuwallu mudbirin, after you have gone. After you have left for a while you're gone for the day, I am going to devise a plan against your idols. What does he do? When they have gone for their day, for the whole entire day, on their day of festivity, for the carnival, to the carnival outside of town, he goes into the temple which houses all the idols. And even if you go to the Hindu temple today, you will see one big idol and many small idols. They have good dosa, by the way. You go and you will see that one big idol and many small idols. Ibrahim alayhi salam, what does he do? فَجَعَلَهُمْ جُذَاذًا إِلَّا كَبِيرًا لَهُمْ لَعَلَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ يَرْجِعُونَ. He smashes all the idols, all the small ones, and hangs the axe on the big idol. Why? He wants to force them to think. Now they come, قَالُوا مَنْ فَعَلَ هَذَا بِآلِهَتِنَا إِنَّهُ لَمِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. Who has done this with our gods? He is indeed, has done a great wrong. قَالُوا سَمِعْنَا فَتًى. Some of them, they say, سَمِعْنَا فَتًى. We heard a youngster, a young man. يَذْكُرُهُمْ, who nullifies our idols, who says bad things about our idols. يُقَالُ لَهُ Ibrahim, people say his name is Ibrahim. قَالُوا فَأْتُوا بِهِ عَلَىٰ أَعْيُنِ النَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَشْهَدُونَ. They say, bring him in front of us so he can give his testimony. So they bring Ibrahim alayhi salam and they ask him, قَالُوا أَأَنْتَ فَعَلْتَ هَذَا بِآلِهَتِنَا يَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ. Oh Ibrahim, did you do this? Did you do this with our gods? Ibrahim alayhi salam, he says, response, قال بل فعله كبيرهم هذا. Rather, the big one has done it. فاسألوهم إن كانوا ينطقون. He wants them to think. And he hangs, as in a murder trial, he hangs the murder weapon on the big idol, right? Who has the murder weapon? Who has the axe? The big idol. Now comes a very important ayah. Many people just pass by without really pondering over this next ayah. فَرَجَعُوا إِلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. They looked within themselves. They did some deep soul searching. قَالُوا إِنَّكُمْ أَنْتُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. And they realized for a moment that they were wrong. They were wrong. The guilty conscience deep inside them made them come to the conclusion that they have been doing wrong. What is happening in Gaza, many people realize for a few moments during the day that it is wrong. But then what happens? The patriotism, the mob mentality, go with the flow, that comes into play. Quran speaks of that. Their jahiliyyah, their passion of ignorance, hamiyyat al-jahiliyyah, false patriotism comes into play. That zeal, that passion of ignorance, that comes to the forefront. And they said, harrikuhu, burn him, burn him, burn him. Wansuru alihatakum, and help your gods. Help your gods. Whatever feeling that they have been doing wrong, that came up for a moment, they squashed it. They squashed that consciousness. And then the real self, their real passion of ignorance came into play, and they said, burn him. That was the confrontation with his people, with society. Now comes the third confrontation, which is against the government. Ibrahim alayhi salam now confronts the king. Quran speaks of that. Alam tara ila alladhi hajja Ibrahima fi rabbihi an atahu Allahul mulk. Have you seen that one, that king who debated with Ibrahim alayhi salam over his Lord? What was the debate over? Allah. An atahu Allahul mulk, because Allah had given him a kingdom. One explanation is that the person who comes into a position of power and authority, he kind of loses his marbles. It gets to him. Power gets to him. An atahullah. In that junoon, in that craziness, in that arrogance of power and authority, he was not thinking straight. And Ibrahim alayhi salam introduced who Allah is. Rabbi alladhi yuhyi wa yumeet. My Lord gives life and gives death. And he replied, Ana uhyi wa umeet. I give life and I give death. There was a person in the prison, in the dungeon, who was sentenced to death, who was to die the next day. The king Nimrod, calls him up and says, you're sentenced to death tomorrow, I'm going to set you free. And says, look, I gave life. Was this giving life? No, this was not giving life. He was already alive. And then he called an innocent person who was walking on the street. He told his guards, catch him, get him, drag him here. And the guards went and brought him. And then he told the executioner, kill him. And the executioner killed him and said, look, I give death. This was also not giving death, because he had to send guards to what? Catch him. He had to send the guards to drag that person in. And then he had to tell the executioner to kill him, and the executioner had to use a sword to kill him. That's not giving death. Anyhow, Ibrahim alayhi salam is not going to get into a tit-for-tat argument with Namrud. So what does Ibrahim alayhi salam say? He presents another proof. He says, my Lord, ya'ti bishamsi min al-mashriq, brings the sun from the east and makes it to set in the west. Fa'ti biha min al-maghrib, you bring it from the west. فَبُهِتَ الَّذِي كَفَرَ, he was left speechless, embarrassed, humiliated, and he realized how wrong he was. These were the three stratas in society: family, community or society, and government. Ibrahim alayhi salam had to take on all three. The hardest, the most difficult is the family. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he faced opposition from all of Arabia, but he also faced opposition from his own tribe, Quraysh, which was the most difficult opposition. When your own people, when your own tribe, your own blood, your own relatives, your own uncle refuses you and rejects you. So that's what happened with Ibrahim alayhi salam. But Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was a man of principle. That is one of the lessons we can learn. To lead a principled life. He did not go with the flow. He did not go with the flow. He was a principled man of principle. In other words, he preached Allah Azza wa Jal, Tawheed, and that was what he stood firm on. And nothing could shake him, neither his family, nor his society, nor the government. And then we live what we call an egocentric life, where we put ourselves in the front and say, or in the middle, and say, what do I want? I will do what I desire, what I wish. That's called an egocentric life. And one is to live a theocentric life. Theocentric means you put God, Allah, in the middle, and you say, what does Allah want? Ibrahim alayhi salam, did he lead an egocentric life or a theocentric life? He led a theocentric, put Allah Azza wa Jal forefront and said, what does Allah want from me? And then stood firm. And he went through many tests. These were just 3 tests that I just mentioned. But Allah Azza wa Jal repays him, rewards him. Think for a second. He was expelled from his home. His father, Adar, said, don't want to see you anymore. Out, out. Allah Azza wa Jal gave him a better house. He had to leave the house of his father. Allah Azza wa Jal made him the custodian of the Kaaba. Allah Azza wa Jal, think for a second how Allah repays, how Allah rewards. His community shunned him. His society said, burn him, burn him. What did Allah Azza wa Jal do? That was a community in Mesopotamia, present-day Iraq, small community. Allah Azza wa Jal gave him the whole world as a community. And he is Abul Anbiya, father of nations. Inni ja'iluka linnasi imama. I am going to make you an imam, leader for all of humanity. Christians say Abraham is ours. Jews say Abraham is ours. Muslims say Ibrahim is ours. He became the father of nations. Allah Azza wa Jal rewarded him. And what else? The ultimate sacrifice out of all the tests Allah Azza wa Jal put him through. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. And Ibrahim alayhi salam passed those tests with flying colors. The greatest test was to sacrifice his son. And Quran says, Inna hadha lahu al-bala'ul mubin. This was a huge test. This was a tremendous test. Not easy for me to say and easy for you to listen. But imagine for a second putting the knife on the neck of your own son. And that's why Quran says, Bala'um mubin. And why does a person have children? One benefit is that after I die, my son will make dua for me. My son will what? Make dua, right? Now, imagine he was ready to sacrifice one son, correct? And in reality, as far as Ibrahim alayhi salam is concerned, he sacrificed his son. It's only when he opened his eyes, he realized that it was not his son that he had put the knife over. It was a ram that Allah had sent from the heavens. The point is, all of us, billions and billions of Muslims around the world do what a son would do. We make dua for him, do we not? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid. He was ready to forego one son. Allah Azza wa Jal gave him billions and billions of sons and daughters who are making dua for him day and night. Allah Azza wa Jal, when he asks for sacrifice, when he asks us to give, when we give something for Islam, Allah Azza wa Jal is only asking. 9 out of 10 times he won't even take it. He's testing us. And as long as we are ready to give, we have passed the test. And even if we give, and even if we sacrifice, Allah Azza wa Jal will repay us, will reward us in the hereafter and in this world thousands of times over. May Allah Azza wa Jal accept from us.